Hi, viewers and subscribers of my YouTube channel. It's good to be back. My name is Andrew. Well, I need your help. I noticed that 55% of the viewers on our channel do not subscribe to our channel. Even though you enjoy our tutorials, you watch them, but you don't subscribe. And only 40% subscribe. And for those that are subscribed, thank you so much. And if you have not subscribed, simple. Click on subscribe and click on that bell button. Every time we have a new video, you'll be notified. And today's tutorial is extracted from our premium courses. Premium courses are courses that you can subscribe on our website, and they are undergoing promo now. It's just $25 for the whole year instead of $120. This promo is going to be valid until the end of April. Now back to this tutorial. This tutorial is a multi-part series that teaches photographer the criteria that you should go into evaluating the next time you buy yourself a new camera.
Action!
Hi! In this lesson and a few more to come, we're going to learn the criteria that we can use when selecting the features when we're buying our next camera. Number one, this wonderful LCD panel that you have at the top of this camera. Surprisingly, the consumer range and the low range camera doesn't have this feature. Why do I like this so much? You see, when you're shooting out and about, especially when you're a street photographer or a news journalist or a stringer. Stringer is someone that doesn't work for any newspaper, but works every day gathering news and then sell the pictures to different agencies or news sites. Stringer. If you're in that industry, having this LCD at the top is really important. Let me show you why. Because ideally, you'll be hanging your camera. And the crazy part is, when you take up your camera, people will just run. Hey, come back. And you don't get your shots. So the trick is not to bring up the camera and then start changing the aperture or the ISO or the shutter speed. That's gonna be very slow. But the trick is to have the camera hanging so and then dial in your ISO. So it's important to have your ISO at the top as well, just about here. So that way I can quickly do my setting and look at that LCD panel and change my ISO to 800. And then change my shutter speed to 125 and then change my aperture. So with this little LCD panel, I can quickly do all my settings without bringing up my camera. And when I do bring up my camera, boom, I'm ready to shoot. So you see how fast that is? And first criteria, have an LCD panel that will at least show you three things. The first one, your ISO. The second one, your aperture. The third one, your shutter speed. And apart from that, if you look at a Canon's LCD at the top, it shows you the focusing mode, it shows you the exposure meter, it shows you the battery life, it shows you the number of shots that you have. Excellent. Let me show you a few cameras that doesn't have this at the top. The Sony Alpha 7 series do not have an LCD panel at the top. So every time you want to do your setting, you may have to face your camera down because this is the only LCD it has. So that's not too bad either. At least I have this. So remember, do all the settings that you want, and by the time you bring up your camera, you're ready to shoot. And I noticed that the Canon M5, which is a consumer model, doesn't have this as well. So you cannot exactly pretend to be setting up your camera. And as a street photographer or news gathering photographer, ENG, electronic news gathering photographer, bring up your camera and boom, take that shot. So you can actually use this LCD. So remember, having your ISO button at the top is pretty useful as well. And talking about ISO button, if you notice, the Canon camera has a sticky button, which means that if I press on it, I don't need to press on it anymore. I can start turning my dial and sticky button. If you look at the Nikon Group B series, hey, you should head on to my YouTube channel and watch this video as I break down the Group A, Group B, Group C of cameras. It doesn't have an ISO button at the top. So every time I want to change ISO, I have to do this and hold this ISO button down. If I let go this ISO button, so this is not a sticky button. So Nikon, I don't understand why. If I ever lose my thumb, I can't use your camera. Get a sticky button. Let's see whether the Sony has a sticky button. So that's good. I can just dial this. Yep, it's got a sticky button. So you notice I can do this with one hand. Criteria number 2, dedicated command dials. This is called a command dial. You have one at the top or at the front, and you have another one at the back or here. I find the one here annoying, but you need at least 2. One at the front or one at the back. One at the top or one at the side. That way you can control your shutter speed, dedicated, or your aperture, dedicated. So for the Canon camera, this command dial controls your shutter speed. Why do they put it in front? The logic is that you change ISO first, you change your aperture second, and the one that you change a lot in every shoot to balance it to mid-tone is actually your shutter. So that's why it's more convenient to use your finger to turn this. And aperture is something that you don't change that often. So that's why it uses the thumb, and that explains why you have a lock button. So that it doesn't rub against your body and you end up shooting with an f value which is f6.3, which is not a true stop. So you like to go back and watch this episode about true stop in our camera lessons. A Nikon. The command dial at the front is the aperture, whereas the command dial at the back is the shutter. Dedicated buttons. But some camera doesn't have that. They only have one command dial, and that command dial does the same thing for aperture and for shutter speed. That's really annoying. It's going to slow you down. So second criteria, dedicated command dials. In fact, if you ask me, ISO should be a dedicated command dial. I shouldn't be holding down buttons to dial it. So if I were to create a camera, the shutter should be at the front and the aperture should be at the back, and somewhere here I should get another dial for ISO. That way it will make me shoot manual mode faster. So if you go out and you find a camera that has 3 command dials, don't think anymore, buy that camera. Number 3, slots for your media. This is a great camera. You open, you take out your media. From the side, on the left hand side, let's look at the Canon. Another interesting and correct way to put your media. Open and take out from the side. Why do I say that? You only encounter this problem when you look at cameras that you need to eject the card from the bottom of the camera. The Sony Alpha 6500, one of the best consumer camera. It's so small and it focuses really well and fast. And a lot of videographers actually mount this on a gimbal like this, a Ronin gimbal. But the annoying thing about this camera, despite how good it is that the media slot is at the bottom where the battery is. And typically you have this to eject and then pull out the card. But for the love of God, I've got like the smallest fingers among professional photographers of the world, and even that, you cannot pull out that card. So if you have big fingers and thumb, good luck. So I've got the card out. That's not the biggest problem. Let me show you when I have this on a gimbal. So I've got this set up on a gimbal now, and let me show you. There is no smart way that you can access this and take out a card. If the slot card is on the left hand side or the right hand side, I would have been able to off the camera and just take out the card, but it's at the bottom. You need to have more than 2 PhDs to figure this out. So you've got to off the gimbal, power down, undo this whole thing just to take out the batteries and the media card. And there you have it. In this lesson, you learn 3 important things. First, LCD at the top so that you can do all your settings before you bring up to the camera. Bam! That way you can be a faster street photographer. And every shot that you take is candid. So you be a news photographer is so important, because when the crowd sees a news photographer with a camera to their face, they'll just run. But if you really do all your settings, by the time you bring them up, you are so much faster and you get that Pulitzer winning photo. Number 2, have a dedicated ISO button which is sticky at the top. And at the same time, you want to have dedicated command dials. One at the front where you can use your index finger, another one at the back when you can use your shutter speed. And even better, if you own something like a Nikon, you can set that the front command dial is used for shutter or aperture, and the back command dial you can use it for aperture or shutter. Even better, if you can find a camera with 3 command dials and 1 for your ISO like the Sony, that's really fabulous. And thirdly, look for cameras that have media slot on the right hand side, where you don't have to be obstructed with the base plate of your tripods or gimbals. In the coming lessons, we'll go through more features and criteria that you should be looking at when you're buying your next camera. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. If you like what you learned, head on to our website now. Subscribe to our premium courses. You're going to enjoy it because every week what we do, we upload photography tutorials of any genre, from lighting to camera settings to composition to let's shoot this, where we take famous ads and we reshoot them just to see what we can learn. So I truly hope you support our premium courses. I'll see you soon.